Okay, I know there's still some people joining us, but we're going to get started here this afternoon. And I want to thank everyone who is here joining us today. I'm Lindsay Gay, and I'm the General Manager of Clif Family Winery and Farm. We're located in the Napa Valley in California. And we are here to spread some buzz today for National Pollinator Week. So we're very, very excited to be here. This is a time to celebrate pollinators and to really spread the word about what we can do to help protect them. And I have a great panel of guests here with me today to join me in helping to celebrate these pollinators. So with me is Alisa Hammond. She is the Senior Vice President of Environmental Stewardship at Clif Bar & Company, and she has been leading the sustainability initiatives at Clif Bar for almost 20 years. So welcome, Alisa. We have Rob Davis, who is the Director of the Center for Pollinators and Energy at Fresh Energy in Minnesota. Welcome, Rob. We have Dustin Manas, also from Minnesota, who is the founding beekeeper and owner of Bear Honey. And we have Clif Family Executive Chef John Mcconnell, who has been instrumental in helping to create the honey spreads that we will be talking about today. You also might see Ephraim Berrigan. He is our Director of Marketing. He is here to help us with any technological issues that we may have here today. So he is our support on that front. So welcome again, everybody. Each of our guests today are going to be sharing the important work that they are all doing to support our pollinators and really demonstrating how through partnerships we can take all of that work and scale up solutions that address the pollinator crisis. We're going to spend some time at the end of the day talking about our solar grown honey spreads. So some of you guys may have these in front of you. We have 3 flavors of our honey spreads and also our raw honey. And so get your taste buds ready. I think I already saw a Q&A question about what's the best palate cleanser. So we'll be addressing that in a moment, but we're excited to do a little bit of tasting. And we're also going to be talking about how you can use these spreads at home and in your own cooking. So have some fun with that. If you have any questions, there you go, John's showing you. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. We will be answering questions throughout the event and then also saving some time at the end for that. And then we will also, if you have anything you want to add to the chat section. So I think that's the housekeeping pieces of this. So a little bit about us. Clif Family was started in 2004 by Gary Erickson and Kit Crawford. They are also the co-owners and co-founders of Clif Bar & Company. So that is our connection with Clif. And we were built on a commitment to organic agriculture. So we really look to share a passion for wine, food, and farming while sustaining our community and respecting our planet. And there's a lot of ways that we do that through our experiences at Clif Family. We're a hospitality-driven business, and we are able to share those passions through our organic Napa Valley farm. We have a food truck that serves a delicious menu of bruschetta and farm fresh salads. We call it our farm to truck food truck. And also our tasting room that's located in the Napa Valley. So our farm supplies most of the produce that we serve on that food truck, and it also provides a lot of the food pairing experiences for our tasting room, food and wine pairing experiences. In total, we farm about 100 acres, and that is predominantly grapes for our wine, but also fruit trees. We have vegetable gardens where we grow peppers and tomatoes and squash and you name it. And then we also have olive orchards on the farm. So pollinators are critical to life on the farm, right? And everything that we grow depends on these pollinators. We've maintained hives on our own farm for many years, and we also work really hard to create pollinator habitat throughout the farm. Last year, we began asking ourselves how we could do more to support pollinators. And that was when an exciting new project really was brought to our attention with many of the people who are joining me here today. And it was the opportunity to create a line of solar grown honey spreads. And that was, the honey actually comes from hives that are located on pollinator friendly solar farms. So I'm gonna let the experts talk about all the ins and outs of that today, but what I'm really excited about is that we had an opportunity to create a delicious product that we can really share with our customers while supporting the critical development of pollinator friendly habitat. As we all know, our pollinators are in trouble from loss of habitat to misuse of pesticides and herbicides, climate change, and so many other factors. And that's really what we're here to talk about in National Pollinator Week. But there's so many ways that we can help, and there's so many things that we can do to support these critical creatures, and so many things that each of you can do to help. So our goal here today is to share some of the stories, some of our own learnings, some of the opportunities that we've seen and that we have, and really demonstrate that how through our partnerships, we are able to do things that can help. And so I'm really, really excited, and I hope that you guys all get something out of today and enjoy this talk and get to participate as well and find some time to taste some delicious honey. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Alisa, and just bear with us for a moment because she has some beautiful photos and slides to share with us, and then she will get going here. So Alisa, take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to show some slides during this talk, and I will start at the beginning with this picture of the planet. And you should, as Lindsay mentioned, I work for Clif Bar. In fact, this is my 20th year at Clif Bar, and 2021 Earth Day will celebrate 20 years of environmental sustainability and stewardship with Clif Bar. And just so you know some of the background on this, we share these values with the Clif family winery. We have a sustainable business model based on 5 bottom lines. We're working to sustain our people, our communities, our planet, our business, and our brand, and making sure that the decisions we make all work together toward that end. And my role in environmental stewardship is to lead the planet aspiration. And really that seems like a ridiculously big job and a name for a department, but actually when you think about the impact that human beings have had on our planet, the things that we've done, we didn't think we could change the entire climate system, but we have. And so people can also take action and dig in where they are in these different partnerships we talk about to make a difference and turn around and scale up solutions. So today we're started talking about the issue of climate and also pollinators. And those 2 issues are what brought us together to this partnership with the honey. Next slide, please. And now it should be full screen. All right. So when we talked about our sustainability program, we had a guiding principle. It's a guiding principle that comes down to 4 simple words. Think like a tree. We're trying to create a business that thinks like a tree. And what does that mean? That means when you think about trees, they run on 100% renewable energy. All those leaves are acting like solar panels. And we know that we're in a lot of environmental problems today because we're burning fossil fuels instead of relying on wind and solar. So the first principle of our sustainability program is to run on renewable energy. The second principle is to aim to create a system that can recycle all waste. Trees recycle all the leaves, the twigs, the squirrels that fall out of the tree dead, they are recycled back into the earth and they improve the soil. So in that recycling, the trees and forests sustain and improve the place they grow. This is a really important principle because trees are giving back more than they take. And we need to apply that principle because so much degradation has happened to our natural resources, to our climate, that we need to think about making decisions that actually restore the health of our natural resources. So next slide. No. This is the slide I wanted you to see. In 2016, we opened up a bakery that we built in Twin Falls, Idaho. And you'll see this long 300,000 square foot LEED platinum building that is our bakery. But what I'm focusing on today is here, this 5-acre solar array in the front. I was on a team to build this solar array so we could run our bakery on renewable energy. And when it came time to decide what kind of land use practice would we have to manage underneath the solar array, well, the 2 practices that were common in the industry is either to take out the soil and put in gravel, horrific, or to use turf, which then again would be using more fossil fuels to fertilize and mow. And then we discovered Rob Davis and Fresh Energy. And this first partnership in the chain began because we learned that they were promoting the use of native plants, flowering native plants to provide pollinator habitat under the solar array. And that meant a lot to us at Clif Bar because we depend on pollinators for food. We're a food company. And because we have this principle of sustaining and improving the place we grow. So we dug in and learned more about the benefits of planting native plants under solar panels. And it's a win-win-win-win situation. As solar panels get hot and it's hot in the summer in Twin Falls, once they're above 73 degrees, I think, they start to become less efficient and they're producing less energy. So the first benefit is that these plants that are planted under there are actually cooling the panels, and the panels will generate more electricity. The plants are also restoring soil. Research has shown that they're storing carbon in the soil more than would happen without the panels there because they're creating microhabitats. They're also protecting the soil. Most importantly, they're providing this native habitat for our wild pollinators as well as hives that could go on the land. So we got excited from Rob, and we also learned about the opportunity to be part of a network, research network of different solar plus habitat projects across the country, which Rob will tell you about. And because one of our goals is to scale up solutions, we decided let's build an educational trail on our solar array. And we talked a lot about all our different principles. One of our principles is to treat energy like an ingredient at Clif Bar. If we're going to go to all the trouble of using carefully grown organic ingredients, why would we want to bake them or run a bakery with dirty fossil fuel-based electricity? So we treat energy like an ingredient, field to final product, and we tell people about that on our trail. But probably the most important message we want to get is that without pollinators, we wouldn't have Clif Bars. Here's some of our top ingredients in our products. And it's not just one visit by a bee. For example, a strawberry needs at least 20 different visits. 1 out of every 3 bites of food relies on pollinators. So we also said, we got to get the message out to the community of Twin Falls. We put this sign up so people wouldn't worry that we were why is that so weedy? Where's the turf? Where's the gravel? We let them know about our pollinator habitat. And we found that the city of Twin Falls was also considering being a Bee City USA. They were also considering being a Monarch City USA, where the city would commit to doing things that benefit these 2 important insects. And we learned that there was a pollinator council in our own Twin Falls, and the head of our bakery joined that council. So we were really honored to be part of this. When the news got out in Twin Falls, people brought us 2 different hives that were rescued from dead trees that were dying. They heard that Clif Bar loves bees. And before the week was over from opening this array, we had bees on site. So with that, I pass it on to Rob Davis, and thank you very much. Oh, and I need to stop sharing. Just one moment.
Thank you, Alisa. And yes, Rob is up next. He's going to talk to us about the next link in the chain of this partnership and really talk about how we can scale up some of these solutions and what he does with his work at Fresh Energy. So Rob, you are up as soon as Alisa stops sharing her screen. You're ready to go.
I know that someone in the chat asked, what is the best palate cleanser? And as definitely a non-chef, I'm just going to let you know that public policy is a fantastic palate cleanser. So, passing ordinances and laws and encouraging practices that create habitat at scale is just a fantastic way to get yourself excited and ready to taste something better, to experiencing something better. So I'm going to share some visuals here. I want to absolutely as well credit the great work that has been happening by the National Renewable Energy Lab in bringing solutions to scale. But like I said, the great thing to pair with science and public policy is honey. So let's just all quickly reward ourselves and just crack one of these guys open here. And I've got a clean spoon, and I'm just gonna, take a little bit of this. And while you're sampling some honey, I'm just gonna tell you about delicious science. and so there's been an extraordinary amount of research over the last 40 years that has, dramatically brought the price of solar panels down. And it's only in the last 10 years that the National Renewable Energy Lab has received funding from the US Department of Energy to start studying what plants perform best and how can we look at a solar farm and a solar development in a more integrated way to help reduce the costs. Maybe we don't need to clear the ground and treat it and seal it and have gravel. Maybe we can do something that is both higher efficiency for the panel and lower cost for the energy system, while also meaningfully benefiting our food system. So this really brings us to this idea we're culminating in, and it's these products that it turns out that a flowering solar farm is a fantastic place to keep honeybee hives. They're not treated with insecticides. There's forage throughout the growing seasons, and keeping the hives right outside the fence at a responsible distance is a fantastic pairing of technology and environment and agriculture. And so, in fact, this solar grown mark is a trademark of Fresh Energy that we provide to collaborative partners like Clif family to help bring products into the world that benefit from being harvested from pollinator-friendly solar farms. And here's the Tom Peterson, the agriculture commissioner for the state of Minnesota, with Dustin, cutting open the first frames of honey last fall from the 2019 harvest. And then this is a photo of the site in Forest City, Iowa, where this honey was harvested from, with the mayor here and Dustin and his family at the Minnesota State Fair. So these are delicious products, and certainly I think we all love clean energy. We don't like the taste of pollution, we don't like to breathe pollution, and we don't like to eat pollution. And that's, I think, something that's beautiful in this creation, is that we're celebrating the combination of food and clean energy in ways that also benefit ecosystems. So the contrast, the reason that this work is happening, the Inspire study, is all about studying and advancing the science with regards to what plants work best. So here is the National Renewable Energy Lab team with Argonne National Lab actually counting what seeds what plants are thriving under and around solar panels, highlighting some of this science and research, and has found that pollinator-dependent agriculture outside the fence of a pollinator-friendly solar farm can meaningfully benefit those crops nearby. So this is all starting from work that, well, not all of this, but the Fresh Energy's engagement in this work began around 2013, when the state of Minnesota passed some policies that were going to result in us scaling up very, very, very quickly in terms of solar deployed on the landscape. But we heard from some of our allies and friends in the farming community. They had seen photos that were all over the news media of pictures like this from the California desert and the Arizona desert. And they just started to think, what is that solar doing to that good quality farmland? And when you see enough of these kinds of projects that have this solar-centric design, this is one that's in Ohio, then you start to really think, boy, maybe the clean energy transition is going to have some really negative trade-offs. Maybe I really like productive farmland. How can we do this differently? So we started a research project and cast around. Obviously there's negative headlines and there's conflict anytime you build anything. But we started a research project and found this photo from the United Kingdom. Westmill Solar Park established a beautiful flowering meadow under and around all the panels. And so we called up the ecologists back in 2014 and talked to them about what went wrong, what went right, and how was this possible and implementable. And the insight we got was that, this is actually readily available and practical and possible to do at scale. And that was exciting. That was a really exciting insight, because then we drove down the road and found that a rural electric cooperative right here in Minnesota, Connexus Energy, had actually already designed a project with with gravel. And then at the very last minute, the marketing manager got in there and said, no, we can't possibly build that with gravel. Let's do it with a little prairie. And so on this 1.5 acre project in Ramsey, Minnesota, they established a low growing meadow and around the panels back in 2015. And this project then we took to some entomologists and others and said, well, what if we had a couple thousand acres like this? What if we had tens of thousands of acres that look like this? What if we could make a meaningful impact on improving overall pollinator health by combining these two things and doing it at scale? Well, photos like this and stories like this tend to get shared. And I think it's just also based on the attendance we see today and your engagement in this, that is really important. The idea of seeing these not as industrial energy landscapes, but as an opportunity to deploy conservation at scale and help us create habitat with private sector dollars. So since then, there's been projects in northern Minnesota and in Vermont, giant projects like 1,000-acre North Star Solar Project, the Aurora Project, 1,400 acres in Minnesota, projects in Wisconsin just 1 year before and 1 year later. These sites can really thrive when you hire the right landscape architects and landscape designers and vegetation experts, as opposed to just hiring people that know how to mow and seed turf grass. So this is absolutely implementable at scale. And we see that in utilities projects, in university projects like this one, in Eastern Ohio by Denison University. And then at University of Dayton, they've got the racks up. All they needed to do was put the panels in and maybe some seeds. And a year later, they had a stunning result. I visited this project last year, and it was absolutely buzzing with the bees and butterflies everywhere. It was beautiful. So it's not just about pollinator benefits as well, though. As Alisa mentioned, there's a lot happening underneath the soil. Illustrator Heidi Natura created this chart of prairie plants back in the early 90s or maybe in the 80s. And she gave me permission to make some adjustments. And so I added a solar panel to help people, understand that, the turf grass seeds are really just very fragile. They need fertilizer, they need water. They don't really add soil organic matter, and they're relatively fragile, particularly in this new climate that we live in, where we've got these bouts of intense drought and intense deluges of rain. So we really need plants that have deep root systems that add and hold moisture in the soil so that they can live through those periods, as well as channel additional water down into the aquifer. And then it's also important to make sure that this is not a pollinator veneer. This is not, bee washing, as they say. This is legitimate and backed up by scientists. And so we partnered with Dr. Marla Spivak, MacArthur Genius Award-winning honeybee scientist and entomologist, as well as Dr. Karen Oberhauser, one of the world's foremost monarch scientists. And their message was loud and clear and very straightforward. Local, state, and federal governments are not today investing sufficient resources to keep these species of insects alive. So we all need to do our part to plant our own pollinator gardens and also ask for solar sites, support solar sites that include pollinator-friendly vegetation. And so with them, we designed a policy tool, a pollinator-friendly solar scorecard. The idea of saying, well, the solar farm is not, a garden. It's not a natural native restoration. It is working lands. And that said, we can do a lot better than turf grass. We can do a lot better than gravel. And so, now in 13 states, there are pollinator-friendly solar scorecards that are vetted by expert entomologists. It's It's a simple one-page tool that helps you understand what is sufficient to do to demonstrate a pollinator benefit within the managed landscape of a utility scale solar farm. You know, the energy comes first, but there's a lot we can do that's better than turf grass or gravel. And this is a policy tool to help to ensure you get those positive outcomes. So this is passed unanimously in Minnesota, unanimously in Missouri and New York and Maryland. And it's exciting to see so much enthusiasm and support, you know, for folks that maybe they're not into the energy, but maybe they say, you know what, I see what you guys are doing, deploying pollinator habitat at scale. Okay, I'm here for the habitat. So this is very cheap and affordable for solar developers to do. So it's new, and that's why you don't see every solar developer doing it today. But we know that energy providers can be nimble and agile. And, you know, I have to really give a shout out, Lindsay, to, you know, I think it's the California, the community choice aggregator, MCE Clean Energy, that works there in the Bay Area. And they're effectively a utility provider for electricity. And so if you're in the 4 Bay Area counties, you can get your electricity from them. They are telling all of their future solar developers that all of the future solar farms in their region will be pollinator friendly. And so we need more of that kind of leadership from utilities, you know. And so, so the electricity that'll be supplying the Clif family winery will be more and more pollinator friendly over time. And then, as you mentioned, Alisa, we know that these cooler microclimates can actually increase the efficiency of the solar panels, and the benefits are thoroughly documented. But I think the most delicious benefit is something we're about to get to. And I don't want to get to the honey too quickly without also saying, who's going to mow these things? Well, maybe we don't have them mowed. Maybe we just have them grazed. And so of course, there's an American Solar Grazing Association, because we live in the future. And in the future, there's an American Solar Grazing Association. And so they are advancing practices to ensure that the sheep and the bees get along. And in fact, there's a seed mix called Fuzz and Buzz of combining these two things, pollinator habitat and grazed by sheep. And they are delicious and show you that really we are on the cusp of a solar farm to table movement. So we're at an exciting point now. And I think this is really one of the most exciting and most delicious ways that you can, you know, use in your kitchen to think and have weird conversations about clean energy and the policy that supports it. And so, John and Dustin, I'll hand it off to you to get into the really tasty part of this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. That was awesome. I love that last slide, especially Lexi Han over at Solar Grazing and I have been working together since we met. And what goes better with honey than yogurt, right? So I'm looking forward to some like good skyr, like sheep's milk yogurt that would be perfect with our honey. I think there's a natural symbiotic relationship to be made there. So a little bit about who I am. I was thinking about like what I was going to say to you all while I was driving. I've been out with hives all day. So luckily you can't smell me through a Zoom meeting because I've been covered in sweat all day long. And the one thing that, you know, I figured that I would tell you all is that our bees are doing great. That was one of the greatest things. I was talking to Rob last week about how I was at one of our furthest sites away from here, our production facility. And we had over 90% of the hives survive the winter. And these are things that we're starting to see repeating themselves on all of our solar-based applications. It's been a really, really cool opportunity to be able to work with Rob and now Clif. You know, when we started our company as beekeepers, we wanted to make it known what was going on with bees throughout our country and in the world in general. And so we've always supported nonprofits and grassroots organizations that were helping raise the awareness of what's going on with bees. But our company is very small, and our small company has a very small voice. And so being able to partner with Clif in their large bullhorn that they're able to have has been a dream for us to be able to help us accomplish our mission as our company. And I look forward to working with you guys more and more in the future. So thank you so much. And I love what you guys are doing. And this has been a great opportunity to work together. I hope everybody loves the honey. You know, one of the things with that honey that that's really interesting is that it's a spreadable honey. And so a lot of people, might think, oh, well, honey is supposed to be drizzly, right? That's like Winnie the Pooh, drizzle honey. And the thing with honey is that it will naturally crystallize also. And that natural crystallization process can have different size crystals. And if you're holding a handful of wet gravel and a handful of wet sand and then just dump them out, you look at that handful of wet sand and it's still covered in sand, whereas the wet gravel, well, there might be 1 or 2 specks there. And this is the same theory that we're doing with our honey, is that it naturally crystallizes, but we're trying to get a smaller crystal to form. And by that smaller crystal forming, you get a much more luxurious feel on your palate. And then it stays on your palate and gives you that much more flavor. This is a time-tested, age-old, like just natural beekeepers to kind of push the honey in the right direction. It's called creaming or whipping honey, and this is what we're doing with all the honeys that we're harvesting from the solar farms. And John can talk a little bit more about the spices that are going into these honeys, because Clif and Clif family have paired with these really cool, really interesting spices that John has chef genius his way up to. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about like what the spices are, where they come from, and why they're so special.
Thank you, Justin. Let me first introduce myself. I'm John Mcconnell, the executive chef for Clif Family Winery. I'm very excited to be sitting in a group of panelists today who are clearly as enthused about beyond a food product, but essentially the commitment we can make, the difference we can make, and the crowd that we can impact on how to basically challenge what we think about in regards to our food system and our food chain. Our farm is basically located on Howe Mountain, and our property is basically in St. Helena. If you look at our farm itself, we are, at elevation on a mountain site, definitely not the first place you would think of in terms of fertility for a farm site. But we have cultivated this landscape that really supports diversity and really a habitat that really supports more or less kind of a snapshot of our food system. And though Dustin had commented on being a small company, and certainly we are just that. And I think beyond the measure of what we aspire to do as a business, it's essentially vital for us to form partnerships so that we can continue to champion these messages and get the word out. So I think we're very clearly happy to be working with Rob and Dustin, and really how we can continue to advance and champion our message and move it forward, but really kind of reach a new audience. And that really is kind of lend us into the next segment, which is the partnership. I'm going to talk about 3 products that we just created this year with the help of Dustin's expertise. It's a phenomenal product. And really for me, it's as a chef, we look at, working with the best, but beyond that, really to take what we have that's great and how do we make it more exciting? How do we implement more flavor or push the envelope in regards to what is maybe not so familiar? And this is kind of what landed us to where we're at today. So Dustin alluded to the spreadable honey. One of the things that I absolutely love about this particular product is that the applications are endless. Traditionally, honey is an invert sugar, and you can drizzle it. Makes for, when you're telling your 6-year-old to make a peanut butter and honey sandwich, you have to factor in that you're going to be cleaning up a little bit. And definitely the case. One of the things I love about this product is you could really unscrew the top and really just take a butter knife or a spreader to this and really apply it to anything, or even just to Rob's point, use a spoon and, shove some in your mouth. It's absolutely delicious. The texture of this spreadable product really gives endless application. And I think that's what we're really excited to work with. For us, it was really about working with a company called Burlap and Barrel, based out of New York, and Ori is the owner. And we've had the privilege of meeting him in food shows, but also to work with him exclusively to work with the product that he has championed. And these are small cooperative family farms that really rely on providing for obviously not only their community as a business, but their families in small remote corners of the world. And these are where these spices are obtained. So the 3 spices that we worked with in 3 products, and I'll put this in front of the camera as well. This is our cinnamon honey. So cinnamon verum is a product that is actually produced or once again obtained from Burlap and Barrel. This product is great because it's not your conventional cinnamon. It's not as spicy, and there's not really a numbing effect or a cloying effect to this. And my goal as a chef is to really kind of take a product that's already got significant integrity and flavor, and to really kind of deftly match it with something that does not overwhelm it, but really kind of excites your palate to see its potential. In addition to that, we've also done a ginger spreadable honey. And this is also this is buffalo ginger, so an heirloom variety of ginger that's sourced in Vietnam. And then lastly, in our trio, because you can't do just one or two good things, this is a cacao spreadable honey that's basically flavored with cocoa powder. And for those who are unaware, chocolate as we know it basically starts as a legume, and it goes through the process of drying and fermentation, and it's really kind of deconstructed before it's put back together again as chocolate as we know it. In this case, we're using just the untreated cocoa powder to flavor something that's already a sweet base. And for those of you who are a fan of Nutella, this is to me a far superior version of that that doesn't really need much to accent it or go along with it. So those are the three flavors that we've done. I'll also showcase, we have some awesome little recipe cards as well that allows you, the home cook, to create recipes for yourself at home, given these three spices, or these three spiced honeys. Beyond just your conventional use of using a honey with a tea, or even just to accent your toast or your breakfast, there are several applications, and it's really just the savory spices that we've chosen in this mix that really kind of untap the potential of using it in savory applications other than just your conventional sweet applications. So for this, we've used the cacao honey spread to basically make a barbecue. We've also used the ginger honey spread to really kind of glaze carrots to really kind of add a sweet and spicy mixture that are accented by other spices to really kind of set off those carrots. And then the cinnamon ginger honey we've also used as a simple glaze to a homemade donut. Who doesn't love donuts? I know I'm particularly fond of them. But those are the three spices that we've worked with. Once again, we're really allowing Dustin and his expertise to really showcase a wonderful and a phenomenal product that a lot of people don't necessarily see in their pantry. But one of the things that's really exponentially great about this product is that it will not crystallize like a traditional honey. Therefore, the shelf life is exponentially longer. Although the jar itself is relatively small, it's pretty hard to stop eating this even just without a spoon. But these can all be found on our website at www.cliffamily.com with recipes to our blog site. I'm, like I said, thrilled to be working with this product, and obviously happy to continue the partnership with Dustin and to Rob, and really continue to message and champion to all how a consumer can make a difference just in their thoughtful process of purchase, and really kind of be, for me, it's really just continuing the story and telling the message. So that's what I got.
Thank you, John. Dustin, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that front?
Well, I could only add that, John mentioned my expertise, but I think that's a lot of this is just due to the forage that the bees have on these solar panels. So one of the things that we've noticed is that there's a lot of diversity in the pollen that the bees are collecting on these arrays, which causes the bees to be healthier because they have if you think of, if a beehive is on a field of, let's say, strawberries, that's, 2,000 acres of strawberries, a monoculture, they're just eating strawberries all day long. And if you just ate strawberries all day long, they might be good for you, but everything in moderation, right? And what these solar arrays allow is that there's a whole diversity throughout the entire year of the different pollens that are available for the bees that they're feeding their young bees as they raise them. And that causes a healthier hive, more robust hive that's able to harvest more honey. That's a better flavor honey. So we always say, happy bees make better honey. And that's what's going on here. So thank you for the accolades, John, but I really owe it all to the bees.
Fantastic. And maybe, Dustin, you can answer the question that came up. It's a great one. That's, why is honey not classified as organic? And is it because pollinators fly onto a non-organic plant, or is there a different reason? Are you able to answer that for us?
Yeah, so that's been a kind of a contentious issue with our beekeeping federation in the United States because really it comes down to classifications and laws and what is organic. So bees can fly up to 5 miles away from a hive, but they will only fly that far if they have to. And because organic livestock have to be fed 100% organic food in order to be considered, have their milks, let's say in a cow, be considered organic, then we can't economically prove that 100% of the forage from the bees has been from an organic source or a wild source. There's very few places in the United States that have a 5-mile radius around a hive that is 100% organic or 100% wild lands, unless you're on like estates or national refuges, which generally we're not allowed to keep bees on. So that's the reasoning behind why it's so difficult to have that organic certification, whereas other countries have different laws, and through reciprocal trade agreements, they're able to recognize their organic honey with the USDA seal. So most of the organic honey that comes to the United States is from South America and Canada, and through our trade agreements with them, then they're recognized with the USDA seal. So we don't treat our hives with anything that is not organic. We rely on physical management of our hives and management for our hives by our placements, putting them in great places rather than forcing them to make honey on places that are not so healthy for them. And this is where Rob and Fresh Energy have been so great in introducing us to so many different solar developers across the region that have allowed us to place our hives on places where they have that ability to have a diversity of forage that keeps them healthy.
I think it's also really interesting and important, Lindsay, that sometimes the organic consumer that is looking for those products, they also are folks that are really interested in more transitional organic landscapes. And to a great extent, that's really what a solar farm is that generally it's been either a 1 to 4 to 400 acre parcel that a farmer has decided to lease for a solar development. And then through the design of an intentional seed mix that benefits honeybees, but also really meaningfully benefits monarchs and all of the native bees and all the moths and all the ugly creatures, that we create a landscape that there's no economic reason to use any insecticides, any fertilizers, any herbicides, things like that. So it's really creating more acres of transitional organic landscapes, so that when the solar comes off, those lands can go right into organic agriculture.
And that's a great point, Rob. And that's one of the things that, when Rob came to me with these projects and asked if we could tap into our network of beekeepers and my friends and our partners that produce honey for Bear Honey, that I was more than willing to get behind, because, the great benefit of these is not just for honeybees. There is an abundance of nesting habitat and pollinator friendly habitat for all the other honeybees, or rather all the other pollinators, I should say. Sorry, honeybees on the brain. But there are over 385 different kinds of bees in Minnesota here alone this summer that will be thriving on all of these pollinator friendly sites. And most of them, like Rob said, are ugly. They're things that people swat at that you would recognize as being a fly or something that might be biting, or that people just get their fly swatter out and get rid of. But these are in essence are creating this private partnership to create oases for the pollinators. And the lifespan of these pollinator panels, or these solar panels rather, are up to 20 years. And so we have a 20-year private reserve for pollinators that will be there for the next 20 years, no matter what. And it's also, that we can talk about, well, it's also producing energy for us. That's, providing independence for our country, as well as clean energy for our future generations. So this has just been a win-win-win for everybody involved, I think.
Thank you. Thank you all. If there's any last questions, I do encourage you to add them to the Q&A. We have just a couple minutes here, but I just want to thank everyone for joining us. It's a really exciting way to celebrate National Pollinator Week. And I think that, as you guys can all see, partnerships are really critical to the work that needs to be done. And I think that those partnerships do not end with the people who spoke today. It really is about each of you listening, that you are each part of that partnership. And I think that there are so many ways that we can work together. And so I think that's something that I really take away from this, and I hope that each of you do as well. I don't see any more questions coming through, so you guys are so thorough at answering every question. I do want to just remind everyone that if you do want to find the honey spreads, you can find them online at Clif Family, and we had a special Pollinator Week special of all of the spreads as well as our raw honey, so you can find that at Clif Family. And I would just say, if there's any last comments from our participants.
Yeah, I'd like to just encourage people to go away with definitely plant your own pollinator garden, right? Look for that 5x5 patch in the front and the back on the side. You know, find that spot where you can plant flowers for pollinators. And also, you know, talk to your mayor, your county planner, the folks in your community that can influence the decisions being made about the roadsides, the right-of-ways, and the solar farms. You know, unfortunately, we've designed a system that is killing a lot of bees, you know, way too quickly. And we can reverse that change, you know, just through your engagement and your advocacy here today and that partnership. So take those actions, have some more honey, and thank you.
So Rob, the question came up, do you have any pollinator plant suggestions for winter in the Bay Area? You probably know the Bay Area as well, but.
Yeah, I would definitely, you know, check the Xerxes Society website. Xerxes is like the Audubon of bees, but also Pollinator Partnership has good resources, and your local landscaper. Although be sure you're asking for plants without neonic pesticides. So look for organic plants and seeds, and talk to your local landscaper about what can provide those healthy forage pollen sources and nectar sources throughout the season.
And one more question that came through is whether the solar farms need irrigation.
They don't. That's part of the key, one of the keys of the research, and it's a real challenge because, you know, working with Alisa and the team at Clif Bar, we knew that Twin Falls, Idaho has, I think, what, Alisa, 15 inches of rain a year or something like this, right? But we also know that the plants actually thrive in the shade of the panels, so they grow differently. You know, in some contexts they do need water, but in those contexts they can thrive in the shade. In other markets, like across the 100th meridian, you know, in the states like Minnesota down to Louisiana, they get a lot more water. They'll thrive in the full sun. So it depends on, you know, where the plants are growing, but the ideal landscape to design is something where the plants thrive throughout the year, and at the end of the year just need maybe one annual mow or one annual graze.
Did Alisa, you want to say something there?
Just at Twin Falls, we did use irrigation to get the plants started, and because it was formerly agricultural land, and it's been a challenge to find the right mix of irrigation, the right mix of seed. But that's what the beauty of this National Renewable Energy Lab network, because this is new. So we're all testing, we're all conducting research. So we've already had the first go through with researchers from NREL to come out and see how our plants are doing. And so how can we modify the seed mix for next year? And it also, I don't know if Rob talked about in Arizona, that they're finding it's under the panels you can grow agricultural crops, because that increased shade and that increased moisture is allowing, especially things like hot peppers in the Southwest. As with climate change, we have increasing heat days. This is making agriculture possible in places that are subject to these extreme, well, we are all subject to more weather extremes now. The other thing I wanted to say that I love about the Twin Falls Bakery and the Clif Family Winery, this is on the migration map of the northwestern monarch. So there are all these monarch butterflies that are in California, and they migrate up to the northwest, including the Twin Falls area. These monarchs that, you know, are really endangered now. So as you think about what to plant in your garden, plant milkweed. Go to the Xerxes Society website, find out the right milkweed for your region. This is so important. And a recent study came out looking at wild milkweed. Often the plants are contaminated with over 60 different pesticide residues. So it's not easy being a monarch. And if that is your food along the way, you know, all of us can help with that situation. And propose to your mayor that your city become a monarch city USA or Bee City USA.
So many great things, so many great ideas and suggestions. Okay. Okay, I think our time together is done here, but I do want to thank everyone. I want to thank our participants and everyone who tuned in. And if you have someone who might want to view this or you want to take a look again, we will be posting this on the Clif family Facebook page. So you will be, and also our website, I believe. So you will be able to view it again and or share it with others. So we'll be sending that out soon. In the meantime, thank you, everyone. Happy Pollinator Week, and go out and spread some buzz.
Stay sweet.
Thanks,
How many
everyone.
puns, Dustin? How many puns?
Oh,
Too many,
Lots
right?
of puns.
we have a whole line of puns that are our bottling shop that we give each other all day long. They're nonstop.
Endless, I'm sure.
Okay. Oh, Rob, you're on mute.
John, I'm already getting ready for the hot pepper chocolate infused.
Nice. Yeah.
That,
So I can't help but to think about this all after the fact, but one of the things that Rob did ask me to provide for those who are still participating is that how easy honey can be used to make a simple syrup for cocktails. I think we've all been sheltered in place for far too long. We've probably poured ourselves a drink or few, and how easy it is to overlook honey as a additive to your cocktail selections, or is even in a tincture. So one of the cool things to do is to simply look at recipes that might incorporate, and of course these seasoned or flavored honeys would work exceptionally well for that as well, beyond just the practical use in a culinary setting, but even in your cocktail program. So Rob, good call.
So one last question. Which alcohol goes best with honey?
Oh boy. I'm a fan of mezcal. I would say I like mezcal and honey together. I do like the combination of that sweet smoke, and that's just me. It's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's other sweeter brown alcohols that I would say, even your traditional whiskey or bourbons, I would say that it would go pretty hand in hand too.
I'm going to have to say I'm willing to try, John.
It's a date. It's a date.
More research. More research is needed.
Okay. Thank you all. Again, we appreciate you being here, and thank you to our participants, and we will see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.